Hey, let's talk about books. Welcome back. Oh, I just hit my hand on the desk here. Ow. Welcome back to my channel and this series in which I talk about the books that I have been reading in 5 book chunks, because I waffle and this helps keep them condensed to like 15-ish minutes. We try. If you're interested in reading this rather than watching or listening to this, I'm doing this in the Substack version as well. Link will be below for that. Let's get on with it. Book 1 is Richard Osman, The Thursday Murder Club. This was published in 2020 and I loved it. Spoilers, I loved it. This one I just picked up because I was hearing good things about it. Cozy murder mystery set in a retirement village. And I tell you what, I was not even finished. I was probably 3/4 of the way through and I texted my mum and I said, please put this on your radar, it's awesome. And she said it's already on my radar. So clearly we're on the same page. This is the story of Elizabeth, Joyce, Ibrahim and Ron, who formed the Thursday Murder Club. And they are a group of people in this retirement village who get together on Thursdays in the rec room and go through old cold cases that one of their previous members, Penny, I want to say, Penny used to be a cop, and so she's appropriated these cold case files when she retired, and now she's going through them with Elizabeth, who we never learn what Elizabeth did, but there's definitely hints dropped in here that she's perhaps not regarding the Official Secrets Act as well as she should. And these guys get together, go through these cold cases, but then of course a real murder happens and they take it upon themselves to solve this real murder in a very cozy, funny, sweet way. They have to convince the cops to work with them. And I got real Midsummer Murders vibes from this, which is filling a hole in my heart left by Midsummer Murders because I haven't seen new episodes of that for years. What is going on, ABC? Why aren't you airing them? Anyway, this, rather than the cops being the one who solved the mystery, and there's like an eccentric cast of characters in the episode, which is Midsummer Murders, this is the cops are the bumbly sort of ones, and these guys, the Thursday Murder Club, solve the crime. And there's, you know, plot twists and red herrings and all that sort of thing, but I absolutely loved it. I'm definitely going to read the second one, and if you like that sort of funny, eccentric, cozy murder mystery, Midsummer Murders vibes, highly recommend. I love this. I gave it 4 stars, I'm going to assume, because I've given so many things 4 stars this year. Anyway, highly recommend. Right, this next one I'm including, even though I abandoned it, I did not finish it. It is The Witch and the Tsar by Olesya, Salnikova, Gilmore. It was published late 2022, and I think it might be out in physical version in Australia now, but when I bought it, it was on Kindle only, but it was like $5, so I gave it a go, and I wasn't in the mood for it. The problem was not the book, it was me. It's Eastern European retelling of Baba Yaga, except she gets the shit, so people call her Baba Yaga because she's not an old woman, she's just a woman. And she is compelled to leave her, you know, chicken leg house in the woods where she's been helping people and go back to the major city, which I want to say is Moscow, like 15th century Moscow. And Ivan the Terrible's there, and her ex is there. Like, she's a model, Yaga, and her ex, who was also a model, is there. And I really want it to be, it's in the vein, the vibes of Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik and The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, I think. Arden. It's got those YA feels. I just was not in the mood, but if you're in the mood for like fairy tale retelling, whimsy, YA vibes, absolutely. I stopped at 18%. I wanted to read about Yaga pottering about the woods, not going to the city and scheming with / against her ex. So That's on me. That's just I was not in the mood. Can't give it a star rating because I didn't finish it. All right, plot twist for this next book. I have a special guest, my daughter Emma. And that's because she's the reason that I read this book. Book is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is the school copy. This is the updated version of that. Vintage classics. To Kill a Mockingbird was published in 1960 and it's an absolute classic. And you had to read it for Year 10 English. So we can blame your English teacher for this one. Alright, what is To Kill a Mockingbird about?
It's about a little girl whose father is defending a black man during a court case in the 1930s, and he gets a lot of hate for it. And he's trying to like get his kids to like see his way of like morals, like people, like black people aren't bad, and just like be kind to people and stuff like that, rather than just like the racism of 1930s country America, South America.
Did you like it?
No.
No? Why not?
It's boring, and also I have to read it for school. So.
Yeah, okay, that does suck all the joy out of life, doesn't it, when you have to read it for school and analyse it. Do you think... I was really shocked when I read this because of the nature of the crime that Tom, the black man, has been accused of. I was really shocked to see that in a text set for high schoolers. What do you think? Was it appropriate?
I think it was, because there wasn't any like descriptions or anything.
Yeah, maybe I was just a really naive Year 10 student because I don't know that I would have fully grasped the implication of that crime, which, spoilers for, how long has it been since this was published? 60 years? 1960? 60-year-old book?
63.
Thank you, this is the maths child. Spoilers on a 63-year-old book, but the crime that Tom is accused of is rape of a white woman. And Atticus, which is the father of Jem and Scout, who are the primary characters in this story, is assigned as the lawyer to defend Tom, and he chooses to do that rather than step off the case like others would have.
Actually, he didn't have a choice to do it. He had to do it.
Yeah.
But he chose to like actually defend
Yeah, he
him.
chose to actually make a go of a defence rather than get up there and plead guilty. Do you think other white lawyers in that town would have done that?
Yeah.
Oh, of course, all the lawyers would have been white, wouldn't they? It's just the nature of that community. I think they're in Alabama.
Yeah.
In the 1930s. I really raced through this story. They took forever. Like, I think I've been finished reading this for 2 months, waiting for you guys to catch up in school time. I really enjoyed it. I can see why it's a classic. I don't think I would read it again, and I think if I'd read it in Year 10 I would hate it. If you gave it a star rating, what stars would you give it out of 5?
2 or 3. I mean, it's not that bad, but I just didn't like it.
Yeah, that's okay. There's a difference between liking a book and appreciating the art of the book, I think. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars and I really liked it. Like, you can see why there's a classic element to it, but you're right, bro?
Mm. But
You don't have to like the classic. Alrighty, thank you, our special guest star. Bye. She's abandoned me, she's gone. Next we have Baptism of Fire, The Witcher number 3 by Andrzej Sapkowski, and this one is, you can watch my other videos, I'll link them before with all the previous Witcher reviews. Number 3 is back to Geralt. The previous one was a lot about Ciri. This one was all Geralt. Actually no, it was mostly Geralt. There's a little bit of the political machinations with the sorceresses, which Yennefer's a part of, and there's a little bit of what Ciri's been up to, which is joining bandits and just being a bandit and killing people for fun, but mostly Geralt trying to find Ciri. He doesn't know where she is, and so it's basically an adventure story crossing country, heading towards a destination, the friends we've met along the way, as well as Dandelion, who is Yaskia in the TV show. And it's just frolicking, good adventure fun, and I will read more. what more can I say without spoilers, or if you don't give any shits about The Witcher? Highly recommend. If you care about The Witcher, I should preface that. 4 stars. This next one I picked up on Kindle. I talked about this kind of in the last episode. This is Tailchaser by Tad Williams. It's Tad Williams' first novel. Although I haven't read anything else by him, he is the name in the fantasy space. It was published in 1985. And in the last episode, I talked about how I bought a book that I had read the sample of, and then it wasn't the book that I had read the sample of, and I had no memory of this place, and I was very lost about where I was. That book was Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. So this one's Tailchaser's Song by Tad Williams. And I don't know, it's the story set from a 8-month-old kitten in a world of cats. And so an 8-month-old kitten is an early years teenager. It's definitely had that vibe. It's definitely, in 1985, this would have been published, it was published as an adult fiction, but it's definitely middle grade, below young adult would be categorized today. Very simplistic themes. The stakes are low. You don't ever feel like there's danger or permanent death or that anything is going to come away, like that Tailchaser, who is the main character, is going to come away or not come away from the story. You know, there's only one part where he's trapped in an underground dungeon with the evil beings that you start to get a sense of despair. The rest of the time he's very young, he's very optimistic, he's very naive about the world. And it was fine, it was readable, but also, this is just me, but I read it when I got a kitten. And so the whole way that I'm reading this story about this young cat going off in the world and having adventures and nearly dying a lot, I was like, oh my god, what happens to my baby if they leave their house and go on adventures and get sucked into this evil underground lair? That was all my fears, but it was not part of the book. Tailchaser is happy at home until his beloved of a similar age disappears one day with the humans that she lives with, and so he goes off on a quest to find her and rescue her. And in the end he realizes that perhaps he didn't need that one true love that he thought it was, and in fact the friends he met along the way and the adventures that he had were the real appeal for him. 3 stars. Definitely a younger pitched novel, but it's entirely readable. I read the whole thing. I feel like actually sitting down and finishing the book is an achievement. The final one in this video is Femina by Janina Ramirez. That cover looks even better in this light, doesn't it? The subtitle is A New History of the Middle Ages Through the Women Written Out of It. This was published in 2022 and I got it for Christmas last year, 2022. And the reason that I read it so quickly, as opposed to leaving it on my shelf unread for a decade, is because some people in one of my book clubs were doing a Storygraph buddy read, so I jumped in on that. What did I think of it? The way that it's set up, like most pop history books, is it starts, I'm just looking at my notes here on my phone, it takes one talking point and then builds a little bit of a story around it. So in this instance, Ramirez takes a discovery of an archaeological artifact usually, and then talks about the time and the place and the woman that is related to. So she takes the modern findings and then relates it back to its medieval setting and context. Like a lot of these histories, it's based predominantly on England. There are women from other parts of Europe, and it is all Europe because medieval, when you're talking about historians and history, medieval is Europe, and the Christian countries on the borders of Europe, like North Africa and over into European Russia and that sort of space. But it's always Europe and where Christianity spread through the medieval period. So there are some case studies from elsewhere in Europe, but it's predominantly England, and that usually happens because the sources are available in the archives. They're in English or Middle English or Old English, which Ramirez has a degree in, or Latin, which if you're doing any sort of history, you should know a bit of Latin. And a lot of the English stuff is digitized as well. So it's easily accessible. That's disappointing because there's definitely women in other parts of Europe, but from a research and technical perspective, England is easier. Absolutely. It was readable, it was interesting, I did learn things. It's quite a competent history. What I did find though is because Ramirez is an art historian, when she's talking about art and the interpretation of art and physical objects, that's where her passion lies, and you can see that in the text, and that was really fun to read. Otherwise, I enjoyed it, I learned things. You could definitely pick this up in an ebook format because there's no... The pictures that are included with it are not necessary to your understanding of what's happening. Definitely recommend. I gave it 4 stars. Definitely inspired me to read, which has been on my shelf for a long time, Gillian of Norwich's The Revelations of Divine Love, and Marjorie Kemp's Book of Marjorie Kemp, which Marjorie Kemp is one of the women who was featured in here. It was also really interesting to do this one as a buddy read with people who are not trained in medieval history or history at all, and to get their perspective on how a pop history book is written and their questions about why and why not things were included. There was a comment in that group about why is it just Europe, and it's just Europe because that's what we classify as medieval. Of course, other areas of the world have a history in those time periods, but they're not medieval with a capital M, you know? I hope you know. I hope I've explained it. Right, that's another 5 books. Thank you for sticking with me on this channel. Subscribe if you want to, or even if you don't want to, just hit that button anyway, it won't hurt you. My Substack link and the Substack details are below if you want that instead of this or as well as this. I really appreciate you, Mum, for signing up for both. My Amazon wishlist is linked below. That's an excellent way to support this channel if you choose, or see the things that are on my radar, which honestly, when I was adding stuff yesterday, it was all history books. Again, you can take the girl out of academia, but you can't take the nerd out of the girl, can you? And special thanks to my guest who disappeared really quickly. She's such a sport for being on this channel. And I will see you again next time. Bye. If you sit up straight. No, I'm still taller than you. Yes.
Because I'm not tall. I'm not tall sitting.
I like it. We love to see it.